I'm Dr. Craig Escude, the host of IDD Health Matters, a podcast where we talk about health, wellness, and health equity for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Hope you enjoy it.
The IDD Health Matters podcast is a joint production between Friends for Life and Intellect Ability. For more information, go down into the show notes and click the link where it says Learn More Here.
Welcome to this episode of IDD Health Matters. Our guest today is John Silfies. Welcome, John.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
So you were the keynote speaker today at the Kansas Interhab Conference, which is the provider organization for the state of Kansas, which is where we're coming to you from today. John, tell us a little bit about what you talked about and your story and how you came into this field.
Yeah, sure. So I started out in this field as a direct support professional a little over a decade ago.
That's a common start for many people who get into this field.
Yeah, and you start kind of there, and that really builds the foundation for every single thing that comes after that. Kind of have driven everything and every choice that I've made and the career path that I've gone down. Worked through a few different jobs. I was director of marketing for a provider agency out of Ohio. And then I worked for a government agency and I did PR and marketing for 12 different counties in the state of Ohio on the government side of things. And then a couple of years ago during the pandemic, started my own company simply to tell the stories of this field, to help support provider agencies, to help government agencies, to help statewide and nationwide efforts. I believe that there's miracles happening every single day in this industry and nobody knows about it. So we're out there just trying to tell as many stories as possible.
And honestly, that fits in with why I'm doing this, because we want people to understand this field, to recognize this field, to see this as a viable career opportunity in a place where you can have a really rewarding and fulfilling career.
Yeah, and I see it all the time. I talk to CEOs of provider agencies all the time, and they have that same thread of being a DSP and then driving them to where they're at today. And, when we look at the DSP position, a lot of people see that as, well, there's no money there, or
right,
I'm going to be underpaid, or it's just a stepping stone job. But really, it's a job that can open up a lifelong career, regardless of your skills, whether you're a nurse or you love spreadsheets or whatever it looks like. This industry has something for everybody to build a life that matters.
When I was working for the Department of Mental Health in the state of Mississippi years ago, the executive director at that time, the executive director of the Department of Mental Health started as a direct support professional about 30 years early.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love hearing that.
Yeah. So, all right. So you started a company during the pandemic, which I'm sure
was wild.
It's an exciting time to do something like that.
Yeah.
But what's the company about?
Yeah, so we exist. My mission is to make the DD field famous. So we do that in a number of ways. We shoot video. We help out with social media marketing. We help with websites and really anything to tell the story of the people that are supporting people with disabilities. We also do a lot of training and speaking engagements to help, inspire and boost the industry that goes through a lot of struggles and a lot of stress that's involved in this field. We try to help give them tools to help to grow. But our wheelhouse is really to tell their stories in a lot of different ways, whether that's video work or social media marketing and all of that.
So I bet you've got a lot of stories.
Yes, so many.
And a lot of interesting ones.
Absolutely.
I had the pleasure of seeing one today in your presentation about a lovely couple.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, so that was Bernice and Rick. They were one of the first people that I had the honor to support as a DSP. During that time, I would just bring my camera into work and I would just shoot stories of people that impacted me or just had a great story. And Bernice and Rick...
Word of note, don't do that without getting permission from your organization, just to make sure you know that.
Yeah, this was in the Wild Wild West days where I was, 20-something, who knows about roles. And Bernice and Rick had been together since they were 15 years old, and they were probably in their late 60s at the time that I shot this. And during that time, I was newly married. I was only married, a few months. And I just sat down with them and asked them for advice on how did you have such a long life of relationship? And they gave me just words of wisdom.
And what was one of those words of wisdom?
Yeah, so Rick, basically the golden piece that has stuck in my head for years is just go along with her. Let her do what she wants to do, and you just go along with her and love her. So that's been huge for my own relationship. Yeah,
that's a pretty important thing to remember, I will say, in relationships. So how do you use these videos and all of the media that you create?
Yeah, so we're really big on not just giving you a product of a video, but then giving you the tools to use in order to get it in front of people. So we have social media marketers that are really smart. One of my guys, Ian, he has worked in other industries. He has worked for large artists that are multinational. He has worked with national like MLB teams and all of this, and he's taking all of that knowledge and bringing it to the DD field to be able to reach people exactly where they're at with the message that they need. So what we do is we shoot the videos and then we put them on the platforms in a way that makes sense and that reaches the right people. Basically what I try to do is bring all of this knowledge from the real world, from industry professionals outside the DD field, get them hooked with the heart, and then make them have that influence in this DD field in a way that we've not had access to before. Yeah.
So do you have a story of how, of the impact maybe one of your videos has had?
Yeah, so a couple that come to mind. The most recent one was a story of a young lady named Julie, and she's from a small town in northern Ohio in Huron County. And we went out and filmed her story, and it was a powerful story about gratitude and loss, and how she take that loss and made a life. And we put it on social media and put it on the platforms, and within a couple of days we reached 19,000 views. Our small community, and it just continues to grow from there. That was one example of what we're able to do. The other side of that is we've had county boards who live off of levies that need local funding. And so we'll do a 12-month campaign where we reach the communities where they're at. We reach young families, we reach industries and employers, and we show those communities exactly the importance of having a county board of DD in their hometown and how that influences their entire community and why the community is better with them there. And we have helped many counties pass their levies. Some counties that have not passed levies for years have passed their levy for the first time. And so I take...
Because of your videos.
The
and
videos
the
and the
impact
stories.
and the people.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just us shining a light on what's already there in a way that's not been done before. We don't have to manufacture anything. We don't have to bend the truth or anything like that. Like, the stories are there, the people are there, and the world just hasn't heard them before. And so we're giving them the opportunity to hear these stories for the first time and change those local communities. And it's been, incredible.
Good feeling to do something.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, we talk about health a fair amount on the show, and I think you touched on some mental health aspects of things in your talk earlier. You want to expound on that?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. One is, we all have our own individual stories that we have gone on this journey in our life, and when we pause to look back at kind of the journey that we've been on, when we take that time to pause, it gives us perspective over our life. Like, our mental health is a really important piece, especially in an industry that has a lot of stress and a lot of struggles. I work a lot with provider agencies from DSP all the way to CEOs to just take that time to pause and reflect on our journey, because when you do that, it gives you that perspective over time that maybe you lose whenever you're just putting out fires all the time. And I've also seen just this, when you do that, you get a sense of gratitude. And I really do believe that when you're able to live in gratitude and thankfulness for where you're at and how you got there, it changes our perspective. It changes our joy. It changes the way that we do things. And that goes for providers and also individuals with developmental disabilities. They've had to overcome great odds. They've been told their whole life, you're never going to be able to do this thing.
Can't do this, can't do that.
Exactly, yeah. So when we are able to come in and teach them to look back at their journey and say, look how far you've come, it just changes the way that we live and the gratitude that we have in our life. And I think that's a powerful thing that we can do that we just don't take the time to do regularly.
Yeah, and that certainly is good for our mental well-being. Yeah, no doubt. When in really seeing things from a gratitude standpoint, there's always more that we can do. There are always more things that we want to do. Sometimes we feel like we should do more for various reasons that may or may not be good reasons.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we can get caught up in the things we do, and or maybe them not being good enough, or haven't done enough, or there's so much more to do. But you've got to look back and say, but where were we last week or last month or last year, and where have we come from, and celebrate those things.
Absolutely, yeah. I always say we celebrate the inch stones. We always want to celebrate these milestones.
I like that.
And I like to zoom in on those inch stones. Maybe we didn't grow this big, but we did these small things that are still worth celebrating. I would also say, even in the way that we shoot our videos and we come out on site and we try to make even that experience of that day matter. So that DSP or the individual gets to share their story for the very first time, maybe. We come in with our cameras and our lights and we make them feel like movie stars. And even the process of shooting that video, we try to make them feel like, man, they have value. They're being seen, their story's being heard, and they're worthy of that. And even in that process, we try to make it an experience that changes the way that they look at themselves also.
So if people want to see your work or learn more about what you do, how can they find out about you and your company?
Yeah, sure. The greatest two ways, we're on Facebook. So if you look up Silfies Media on Facebook, you'll
Silfies.
That's it. Yep.
All right.
Or if you go to silfiesmedia.com, you can find out a little bit more about our mission and who we are and the people that we support as well, and some content on there also.
Friends for Life Residential Care, specializing in support for individuals with developmental disabilities, offers services like adult day support and home health care. Emphasizing empowerment and quality of life, we live by the motto, "My ability is stronger than my disability." We are currently hiring, welcoming those passionate about making a difference. Learn more and explore career opportunities at friendsforliferc.com.
I'm Dr. Craig Escudé, President of Intellectability. State developmental disability agencies, managed care organizations, and providers across the United States use Intellectability's health risk screening tool, e-learn courses, and person-centered training to improve health equity for people with IDD. Visit replacingrisks.com to learn more about how you can employ these tools with people you support.
All right, now I've got a challenge for you.
Yeah.
And I do this with all my guests. So I call it 3 and 3, 3 things in 3 minutes that you would like listeners to know, either tips or words of wisdom, pieces of advice that you think can improve health and wellness, or the world of supports and services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Yeah, sure. So first, I would say my biggest thing is, like, you're doing incredible things. Like, you are changing lives, and regardless of where you're at today and how big those struggles are that you're going through today, at the end of the day, you've chosen a career and a path that is changing people's lives, being selfless and serving others. And so the first thing I would say, is just
know that.
Yeah, you know that.
And celebrate
and
it.
accept that. Yeah, you're changing real lives. 2, I would say allowing the people around you to share their story, whether that's a Facebook post or it's inviting them to lunch and letting them share with you, a DSP to go to lunch with you, or it's shooting a video on a cell phone and letting them share whatever's on their heart. Like, allowing the people around you to share their story and giving them a platform to do that is worth the time. We're trying to hold on to DSPs as long as we can. Turnover rate is high. And what we have found is when you give them a voice and you give them a chance to share their story, they're now connected to the mission as well. And then third, let me think about that for just a second.
Take your time.
Yeah. I would say don't give up. I would say that with anything that's worth doing in life, it's going to be difficult. Nothing that's worthwhile is easy to do. And so I would say, don't give up. Find the things that bring you joy in the work that you're doing. Hold on to those things and keep going, because there's lives that rely on that. There are people that rely on that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a reason why you do what you do. And so I would just say, yeah, don't give up, and just keep going. Yeah.
Those are three great things to remember. John, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. More importantly, thank you for the incredible work that you do in this field. I love your energy, your enthusiasm. It's infectious. Keep spreading it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.